Shalom, welcome back. We are making our way through the NazActs still. We're up to book 8, chapter, 57? So we'll go ahead and jump in. Then the old man, do not take amiss, my son, what I'm going to say, though your words are powerful, yet they cannot lead me to believe that anything can be done apart from Genesis. For I know that all things have happened to me by the necessity of Genesis, and therefore I cannot be persuaded that either to do well or to do ill is in our power, and if we have not our actions in our power, it cannot be believed that there is a judgment to come by which either punishments may be inflicted on the evil or rewards bestowed upon the good. In short, since I see that you are initiated in this sort of learning, I shall lay before you a few things from the art itself. If, says Aquila, you wish to add anything from that science, my brother Clement will answer you with all care, since he has attended more fully to the science of mathematics. For I can maintain in other ways that our actions are in our own power, but I ought not to presume upon those things which I have not learned. When Aquila had thus spoken, then I, Clement, said, Tomorrow, my father, you shall speak as you please, and we will gladly hear you, for I suppose it will also be gratifying to you that you have to do with those things which are not ignorant of the science which you profess. When therefore it had been settled between the old man and me that on the following day we should hold a discussion on the subject of Genesis, whether all things are done under its influence, or there be anything in us which is not done by Genesis, but by the judgment of the mind, Peter rose up and began to speak to the following effect. To me it is exceedingly wonderful that things which can easily be found out men make difficult by recondite thoughts and words, and those especially who think themselves wise, and who, wishing to comprehend the will of God, treat God as if he were a man, yea, as if he were something less than a man. For no one can know the purpose or mind of a man unless he himself reveal his thoughts, and neither can anyone learn a profession unless he be for a long time instructed by a master. How much more must it be that no one can know the mind or the work of the invisible and incomprehensible God unless he himself sent a prophet to declare his purpose and expound the way of his creation, so far as it is lawful for men to learn it. Hence, I think it ridiculous when men judge of the power of God in natural ways and think that this is possible and that impossible to him, or this greater and that less, while they are ignorant of everything, who, being unrighteous men, judge the just God, unskilled judge the contriver, corrupt judge the incorruptible, and creatures judge the Creator. So we're about to get into some material that I think is important that Peter's going to share with us. I do want to, I guess before we get too far along, just to point out this, the thing that the old man is saying, up here, where he says that we are, his belief is that we are basically unable to control our own actions, and because we can't control our own actions, we're not going to be judged for it. That, according to him, is just because of this Genesis, which is, I think, similar to your horoscope, that controls your life, and so you have no power of your own to make choice. This is really similar in a lot of ways to what the apostate Paul preaches, that he talks about how sin dwells within him and he's powerless to choose the good over the sin, which is false. I mean, we all get to make choices. We make choices every day, and there are sometimes, we've all felt temptation for something we shouldn't do. Whether you're like a kid and you're tempted to steal a candy bar, or whether you're an adult and you're tempted to do adult things, but you resist that temptation, hopefully, and make the right choice and walk away from that temptation. Or there's probably been times you've given in to that temptation, and that in itself demonstrates that you have the power to make a choice. But this, what the old man is saying here, I mean, it really reflects a lot of the same thought process that we see in Paul, that that God is not going to expect anything out of you. He doesn't expect any obedience out of you because you're unable to obey. And Christians will just parrot that as if it's true. And it's like, okay, let's turn to the 10 Commandments and tell me which one of these is impossible. They say no one can keep the law. No one can keep the law. Really? Like, what is so difficult about it? Which commandment is in the law that is impossible to keep? There are some commandments you don't want to keep, maybe. Maybe those are the ones you think is impossible, but it's always possible to keep them. So, anyway, I just want to point that out. But I do think that we're probably going to be discussing some of the things that Peter says for the rest of the video. He says, "But I would not have you think that in saying this I take away the power of judging concerning things, but I give counsel that no one walk through devious places and rush into errors without end. And therefore I advise not only wise men, but indeed all men who have a desire of knowing what is advantageous to them, that they seek after the true prophet. For it is he alone who knows all things, and who knows what and how every man is seeking." You know, really, if this is one of those sentences that's in the Nazarene Acts that it's like, man, if you could just get people to accept this one statement, it would make things so much easier. If you really want to know what's good for you, or as Peter says, what is advantageous to you, right? If you really want to know what's good for you, you'll seek after the true prophet, because it is him alone who knows all things, and who knows what and how every man is seeking. Notice, you know, if he knows how every man is seeking, I've run across people over the years that I honestly think that they believe that they're going to get into the kingdom, you know, or heaven, or whatever, you know, destination that they believe is waiting for them. That they believe they're going to get in the gate, they're going to manage to squeeze through the narrow gate by claiming ignorance of things. That they're going to live a life of disobedience, saying things like, "Oh, you know, we don't have to earn salvation," and that sort of thing. I mean, I know a lot of people don't really believe that, and they cling to it, and that's why they get so defensive about Paul. Like they will defend Paul with 10 times the passion that they will defend Jesus. In fact, you can tell them that you don't believe something Jesus said, and they're like, "Oh, you know, it don't matter. Whatever. We don't read him anyway." But man, you question something Paul says, whew, boy, you're in for it. And I honestly believe that the majority of churchgoers know in their heart that the stuff that Paul teaches is not logical, it's not reasonable, it goes against the rest of the Bible. But they don't want to question it too closely because they want plausible deniability. And they really think that if they act like they don't know what they do know, that they're going to squeak by. But Yeshua knows how every man is thinking. If Yeshua knows it, then we know that God knows it. So, for he is within the mind of every one of us. But those who have no desire of the knowledge of God and his justice, in those he is inoperative. But he works in those who seek after that which is profitable to their souls, and kindles in them the light of knowledge. I did a video a while back, and it was, man, I don't remember the name of it exactly, but it was something like a tale of two listeners, or a tale of two followers of Jesus. And it was just looking at these two different groups of people that Jesus seemed to encounter during his ministry. The people who would just accept what he said, and the people who wanted to argue with everything he said. And so here you see these two types of people demonstrated also in this sentence. And you could almost even correlate with this the two paths, the path of righteousness and the path of wickedness that is started out being described in the Didache. So there's two types of listeners. There's people who have no desire of the knowledge of God, and Yeshua, the true prophet, is within the mind of every one of us, all of us. But if you don't desire the knowledge of God, if you don't desire to know the truth, he is inoperative. He does nothing for you. He just kind of sits there and listens. But if you are those who seek after that which is profitable to your soul, then he will work in you. So if you want Jesus to work in you, this is what you do. You seek after that which is profitable. And that work that he does is that he kindles in you the light of knowledge. So if you want the light of knowledge kindled within you, if you want him working in you and through you, that's what you do. You seek after what is profitable. Seek after what is good. Wherefore seek him first of all. And if you do not find him, expect not that you shall learn anything from the other. There's another thing that Yeshua says. He talks about seeking first the kingdom and God's justice. And I think, based upon my years of experience and my own interactions with God, I think that these are really kind of the same thing. I think that God's justice is tied to Yeshua. That you can't, it's hard to really accept Yeshua and his teachings and his words and remain ignorant of God's justice. So, seeking after, up here, seek after the true prophet, whether you realize it or not, you're also really seeking after God's justice. See, if you don't seek after him, then you're not seeking after this either, the knowledge of God and his justice. So it all ties together. The kingdom, God's justice, and Yeshua, they're all the same. They're all right there at that same destination. You find one of them, you seek after one of them, you're going to find the other two. So when Yeshua says the kingdom is within us, how do we find that kingdom? What does that mean? Well, God's justice, when we're practicing God's justice and we're seeking after the Messiah and applying his teachings, I believe that's what leads us to the kingdom. That's what introduces us into that kingdom. And unfortunately, there's a lot of distractions out there that will pull you off of that path, and you have to be disciplined to avoid those snares. Wherefore seek him first of all, and if you don't find him, don't expect you'll learn anything from any other. But he is soon found by those who diligently seek him through love of the truth, and whose souls are not taken possession of by wickedness. If Yeshua says, I think it's beneficial to go, find like a searchable Bible program and just look at the things that Jesus says about truth. I am the way, the truth, and the light. People will worship me in spirit and in truth. There's this truth that's associated with Yeshua. And you can't be a lover of Yeshua and not be a lover of truth, or vice versa. You can't love truth and not love Yeshua, because the two are tied together so closely. So if you seek him through love of the truth, you're going to find him. He is soon found. as long as your soul is not taken possession of by wickedness. For he is present with those who desire him in the innocency of their spirits, who bear patiently and draw sighs from the bottom of their hearts through the love of the truth. But he departs malevolent minds, because as a prophet he knows the thoughts of everyone. And therefore let no one think that he can find him by his own wisdom, unless, as we have said, he empty his mind of all wickedness, and conceive a pure and faithful desire to know him. For when anyone has so prepared himself, he himself, as a prophet seeking a mind prepared for him of his own accord, offers himself to his knowledge. This again, it calls to mind some of the statements of Paul. Paul was obviously still possessed of wickedness. He tells you in 2 Corinthians 12:9 that he has a angel of Satan in him, in his flesh. So it's not just about seeking Yeshua, but it's also about seeking him in a state of being clean from sin. And that in itself ties into the baptism, right? Like purifying yourself. There's a concept, a theme of purity that runs through the Nazarene doctrines, the doctrines of the Ebionites. Earlier, Peter talked about how through pagan worship that even the air itself has been polluted. The spilling of human blood on the earth, like all these sins and practices have polluted the creation, and we're continuing to pollute it. Like you drive by Burger King and you smell the meat cooking inside of it. They pump that out into the atmosphere. I mean, we're still polluting the atmosphere with our dead animals, still spilling blood on the earth. And it makes sense, like it all ties together with why the Nazarenes would do these daily baptisms to purify themselves. Therefore, if anyone wishes to learn all things, he cannot do it by discussing them one by one, for being mortal he shall not be able to trace the counsel of God and to scan immensity itself. But if, as we have said, he desires to learn all things, let him seek after the true prophet, and when he has found him, let him not entreat with him by questions and disputations and arguments. But if he has given any response or pronounced any judgment, it cannot be doubted that it is certain. And therefore, before all things, let the true prophet be sought, and his words laid hold of. I know you guys probably get tired of hearing it, man, but I have to point out that I've been to churches before where I went to churches for months and didn't hear them once quote the gospel. Didn't once quote the words of Yeshua. Oh, they quoted Paul every week. Like, if you ever do go into a church, just pay attention. Just listen to see whether they even, who are they preaching? Are they preaching the true prophet or someone else? In respect to these, this only should be discussed by everyone, that he may satisfy himself if they are truly his prophetic words. That is, if they contain undoubted faith of things to come, if they mark out definite times, if they preserve the order of things, if they do not relate as last those things which are first, nor as first those things which were done last, if they contain nothing subtle, nothing composed by magic art to deceive, or if they have not transferred to themselves things which were revealed to others and have mixed them with falsehoods. And when all these things having been discussed by right judgment, it is established that they are prophetic words, so that they ought to be at once believed concerning all things on which they have spoken and answered. So, I think the thing that's maybe most applicable to us today with regards to what Peter's saying here, I think you could probably, pause the video and spend a little bit of time thinking about what's being said here, maybe draw out some more meaning than just what I'm about to say. But one thing that stands out to me is I do think you do have to have some type of discussion about whether everything in the gospel is truly his prophetic words, or whether things have been altered. We know that the gospels have been altered. But aside from that, aside from having some type of proof or evidence that something's been altered, outside of that, if there is no indication that anything's been altered or changed over time, then you should accept his words. But otherwise, you don't question what he said. Like there's a lot of people today that are talking about failed prophecies of Yeshua that Jesus expected to return within one generation of his ascension. Well, yeah, I mean, like I've said before, I believe he did come back in 70 AD when Jerusalem was being destroyed. He said, "Look for the sign of the Son of Man." The sign of the Son of Man was in the heavens. It was a star shaped like a sword, which, depending on your perspective, if a star is shaped like a sword, it's also shaped like a cross. Sign of the Son of Man. If that's not the sign of the Son of Man, then what is? What appeared before his first coming? Wasn't he foretold by a star that appeared in the heavens? The Jewish historians and the Roman historians record armies, heavenly armies fighting in the sky above them while the Romans were fighting on the ground. It's exactly what is described that was going to happen when Yeshua returned. When James was killed right before the Roman army surrounded Jerusalem, he told the men that set him on the pinnacle of the temple, he says, "You're about to see the Son of Man returning in glory, sitting at the right hand of power." And then immediately after he was killed, the armies of Rome surrounded Jerusalem, and the siege began. I mean, the evidence is there. So don't question his words. Just question whether you have all the evidence about whether things happened or not. "For let us consider carefully the work of divine providence. For whereas the philosophers have introduced a certain subtle and difficult word, so that not even the terms which they use in their discourses can be known and understood by all, God has shown that those who thought themselves word framers are altogether unskillful as respects of the knowledge of the truth. For the knowledge of things which is imparted by the true prophet is simple and plain and brief, which those men walking through devious places and through the stony difficulties of words are wholly ignorant of. Therefore, to modest and simple minds, when they see things come to pass which have been foretold, it is enough, and more than enough, that they may receive most certain knowledge from most certain foresight, and for the rest may be at peace, having received evident knowledge of the truth. For all other things are treated by opinion, in which there can be nothing firm. For what speech is there which may not be contradicted? And what argument is there that may not be overthrown by another argument? And hence it is that by disputation of this sort men can never come to any end of knowledge and learning, but find the end of their life sooner than the end of their questions. And therefore, since among these philosophers are things uncertain, we must come to the true prophet. Him God the Father wished to be loved by all, and accordingly he has been pleased to wholly extinguish those opinions who have originated with men, and in regard to which there is nothing like certainty, that he, the true prophet, might be the more sought after, and that he might lay open to men the way of truth which they had blocked up. For on this account also Yahweh made the world, and by him the world is filled, whence also he is everywhere near to them who seek him, though he be sought in the remotest ends of the earth. But if anyone seek him not purely, nor holily, nor faithfully, he is indeed within him, because he is everywhere, and he is found within the minds of all men. But, as we have said before, he is dormant to the unbelieving, and is held to be absent from those by whom his existence is not believed. And when Peter had said this and more to the same effect concerning the true prophet, he dismissed the crowds. And when he very earnestly entreated the old man to remain with us, he could prevail nothing, but he also departed to return the next day, as had been agreed upon. And after this, we also, with Peter, went to our lodging and enjoyed our accustomed food and rest. Okay, so that's the end of Book 8. We're going to start Book 9 next time. So thank you for listening. Shalom.